and welcome to Playwright, a podcast about creating and sharing new ways to play. My name is Ryan Hamann. You can call me H.
And I'm Ryan Quintal. You can call me Q, and that's the first time I've seen you do that intro.
Yeah, welcome to season 2, everyone.
This is it.
This is the new format. No, I'm down here for the long July 4th weekend.
Yes.
For our American listeners, they will recognize that as being our Day of Independence.
Yes.
I'm sure the rest of the world is pretty clued in on that as well, seeing how much we like to plaster it over movie posters and...
Yeah, you may see or hear, potentially in the audio, fireworks happening in the background.
Fireworks, yes, over the city of Denver is where I'm visiting. Mr. Quintal has been kind enough to host me while I've been mooching off his video games and drinking all his beer.
Here's the real story. He came down, and you can look. We went hiking. What was it, Saturday? And this guy is going up mountainsides that I am just like, I'm pausing. I'm sweating right now, but I was sweating, and I'm like, just don't even wait for me, man. It was like a war zone for me. I was like, just go ahead without me, leave me behind. And you didn't. It was so sweet.
Well, I'm not in tremendous shape myself, so.
And that's
any excuse to slow down is fine, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, it's been wonderful. We've seen nature, we've seen mountains.
Yeah, we've been through the city, and nobody's wearing masks anymore. It's very distressing.
It's over. It's really, for Colorado.
People think it is, but...
Yeah, they think it's over, and it's tough, Like, I get why people are doing it, and now it's like the opposite social pressure of I find myself feeling like people give me looks now when the mask is on. It feels like the opposite sort of thing.
You're not doing anyone any harm. You're keeping everyone else safer, if anything. You're doing them a favor.
Right.
At your own very, very minor personal expense.
Right. Well, we have all these. We have a whole closet of cloth masks now, and so I imagine.
Right, got to make some use of it. Yeah. Well, anyways, we decided while we were here in the same room, in the same space, we'd record a very special episode of Playwright. We're not going to be hopping back into regular rotation, at least not just yet. But just thought it'd be fun to throw on a special episode, and we talked about doing a special whenever the inclination struck, and now that we're in the same space at the same time,
it's a special
time has never been better. So let's get some Playwright out there.
We don't know who goes first anymore.
I think you went first for the finale, so I can go first for the special.
Okay.
So anyways, what I was thinking about was a game that is inspired by the Mario Party game, where you're on top of like an ice platform and everyone's on top of a ball and you're kind of balancing and trying to bump each other off.
Yes.
All right. So I was thinking about a game like that, and I was thinking about like an NFC platform, like the Skylanders used to use.
Oh, okay.
The Lego Dimensions.
Yes.
And I was wondering like if either NFC or if there's other technology that could be used to where like each player can have basically like a disc on this board, and you can build around multiple different like mini games, on-screen mini games that you would use just by like moving your disc, and you can have like 4 people all kind of crowded around and moving their discs around.
I'm moving the character, or I'm moving a board?
The thing is, like, it could be kind of a compilation of mini games. And so I was, whatever kind of creative, like we can talk about the technology that would go into it. We can talk about the different types of mini games and how all those can come together. But I'm just, thinking about like, kind of like a maybe air hockey feel, or less violent, probably a little bit more contained of a space. It's got to go underneath somebody's TV, so anyways, a kind of a Skylanders-y type of platform. Let's see how we can kind of mix and match different ideas to come up with what would you like to play on a platform like that?
You started talking about Skylanders and NFC stuff, and do you remember, this might be from my childhood and not yours, but we're similar in age. There was a game when I was growing up where you had like a metal top, and it had like a launcher, and you actually like cranked it in the launcher, and then kind of it flipped and let the tops. It was like Battle Tops, I think was the name of it. That kind of, I wonder what you could do. Of course, I guess that puts us back in violence land, but I wonder what you could do with like knowing through NFC. We would generally know if something is like in a dangers or in a particular zone, right? Because it knows proximity, NFC.
You see, that's the thing I'm not sure about. That's the thing I was kind of worrying about. Like if you needed to, you could have like multiple NFC sensors that you can kind of by triangulation track, but that may be more difficult than it's worth. If there was like a really simple technology that could track like the movement of something, even like the old touchscreens that just kind of use the grids of lasers.
Oh yeah,
to determine where things are. I don't know.
This would be interesting to have even like a capacitive touch, and if all these things had a capacitive bottom, you'd get really exacting coordinates.
Yeah, I wonder how expensive that would be to kind of mass produce.
If it wasn't a screen and it was just like a sheet, an electromagnetic sheet, I think you would get control.
Kind of like the touchpads on a laptop.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. We're able to move around. I almost feel like. Well, I'm trying to think of like real time versus not real time, because I'm thinking about how so many board games could be enhanced with some level of technological awareness or a computer handling randomization of events.
Yeah.
Monopoly you have to land on a space in Monopoly and say, okay, now turn over this card to find out the random thing. But technology could surprise you. It's like a third element in the play. So
one of the things that I was playing recently, I went back to Nintendo Land, the Wii U launch title.
Oh man,
I love Nintendo Land. One of the games on there that actually holds up really well, and I was playing it for a little bit, and I was like, this could really do with like a Switch port or something. But then the more that I thought about it, the more I was like, this really feels like it needs to be on the Wii U. I don't think it would translate to like a one-screen environment. The Yoshi's Fruit Adventure or something, where you have like a little Yoshi cart on screen, and the TV screen shows various platters of fruit all across the board, and then like a goal that you have to get to.
Yeah.
And then you look down at the Wii U screen, which is where you kind of like trace out the route of where you want the car to drive, and you can't see the fruit, you can't see the goal, and so you have to kind of like...
You're referencing.
Yeah, kind of cross-referencing between them. You can use like little bits and pieces of like the background texture to kind of cross-check where you think you are, and that makes for a lot of fun. And so you could do something like that where, you can try to move your disc along a course and see how well it matches up.
Mm-hmm. You could almost do like a Hungry Hungry Hippos, but like not know where the marbles are. I guess that's just kind of a slapping the board game. But I'm thinking about like that feeling of there's a creature under the surface or something, and you're trying to track the creature through this NFC chip. The computer knows where it is. Maybe you can all see it on screen. Yeah. And then you're all trying to get to a hot zone at the same time with your onboard characters. Uh-huh. There's also those like maybe WarioWare, but I think it's Mario Party mini games where they're like, draw this thing and then you see how accurately you drew it. I feel like that would work.
That could be fun. You could also do like there is one point on the board that's designated like the goal, but every person, their controls are randomized. Like their up is down and left and right, and like all of that stuff is randomized with each turn. And so everyone has to like fiddle with their little, NFC disc and try to like figure out gain the kind of like the awareness of direction of how they're controlling, and all try to, and that kind of solves the problem of people trying to push their physical discs into the same physical space, because technically the goal point could be like different for each person based on how their controls are being reversed.
I'm realizing that this is making me realize that the Wii U never got a proper port of Operation. And I feel like it would be the perfect system to do it, right? Because you could have the patient on screen and you're kind of digging around, like trying to do your best to be like, am I touching the sides? Am I not touching the sides?
Operation's a very vertical game, though.
Yeah, you have to go in. But what could you do if you had NFC? It's almost like, what's it called? Like laparoscopic surgery or something, where there's just a tiny little camera and you're remote guiding tweezers in there, like inside of somebody.
You have maybe 2 teams of 2 people, and maybe there's like a group of lemmings that you have to escort from one side to the other. And so you can each, fiddle with your NFCs to provide the cover or the ground for them to walk on, over gaps and stuff, kind of bump them up. Or there could be stages where your different, tags turn into portals. And so, the lemmings go in one and come out the other. And so you'd have to kind of work together to, determine, where you want to move your disc at the time, and then you're kind of competing against the other team. All this feels like it requires a very large board. So I don't know how reasonable any of this is.
No, I think it's possible. And in terms of, I'm thinking about like what the NFC technology is, and NFC is always like taking a thing, tapping it on a thing.
But it can tell if it's being like held there as well.
Right.
It knows when like the amiibo is removed. And
yeah. I wonder if that means you could almost do like a invisible blind Simon game, or you maybe is there an NFC rhythm game to be had in there too? Like it really knows when you're actually making, is there like the proper taps and getting the do, or like jumping around a board or something that could be interactive?
You can create a whole little, like a mixing board for music as well, using these 2 discs and kind of like locate like tuning the radio stations in Arkham City or something like that. And
or lock picking, right? And so many, like the Splinter Cell lock pick, kind of, is Splinter Cell the one where you kind of like notch it in and out?
See, I haven't played much Splinter Cell, but I know that like Oblivion did that.
Oh, yes. And you could just keep going through lock pick.
You eventually just got to the point where you're just like the auto lockpick button, and you're like, I have 900 of these. It's fine. I got the skeleton key. It's literally unbreakable. But they still make you click on it a number of times before it works.
Click, click, click. I love it. And so the board is I'm thinking about the top idea for a second. Top is maybe a little tougher because you can't control. But what if you had some control over your character, with whether it's a rock'em sock'em robot or something where you can encroach on NFC space and then back off of it, or where the NFC sensor is detecting is always moving around the board, and you're trying to kind of like find the hot spot. Maybe the statue that you have kind of has a little bit of a...
Could be kind of a good sonar type of activity going on here. It would also be great for like a Ouija board, planchette type of activity.
Oh my gosh. The devil made me do it. Did you see this new paranormal, not the paranormal, Conjuring movie? It's called The Devil Made Me Do It.
No.
Yeah. What a name for a movie. It's very long. We've got about a minute left. What makes the NFC thing real?
Another thing that'd be fun, going back to like old video games like the Vectrex, would be like overlays that you can put over the board.
Oh.
Whether they're kind of like a full like game board, like a Game of Life type of thing, or just like the old Vectrex, like just makes it look like you're in the cockpit of a TIE fighter or something.
You could even do an overlay and do like Battleship, right? You could get like a grid of points and actually have to
you'd have to find some sort of divider.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting. Sonar Combat 2 with my little special overlay board. You just need a cheap... NFC stickers are cheap. They're really cheap. Yeah. You can buy like a book of them for like $10 or something. I
burn my own amiibo cards these days whenever I need something that's in a Nintendo game that's locked behind one of their $25 purchases. Like, don't think I will. Think I'll just download the data.
Thank you for the fast travel, Nintendo. All right, that's it. That's our 10 minutes. I guess it's then the money's on me now. Here we go.
Well, we got to come up with a name. So NFC is very close to NFT. Is there any kind of like, what are the like sayings?
But NFT is made so much later. You're talking about just like actual NFTs?
I was thinking about like funny names. Like, are NFTs like involved in any cute titles or anything? Probably not.
Could we be Near Field Warriors?
Near Field Warriors is almost like NSFW. It'd be really funny if we can hit that acronym. Like a near space.
Okay. Near space field.
So there's 2 words that describe the space that, you know what, whatever. We'll take it.
New space.
New space? I mean, if it is like near field is like the technology.
The technology. So. Okay. Near.
I don't mind doubling up on the, like, this doesn't have to make sense.
Near super field warriors.
I think that's... that gets me excited. That
There's a lot of good words in there. Yeah.
It feels like it hits all the proper action verbs. All right, well, that will wrap up the first pitch. Let's move on to yours for the day.
Earlier today, we watched, it was my first time watching, I think your first time watching, Battle Royale, the Japanese action movie, horror movie. It's some art house movie. It's a crazy movie, and it's kind of what the Battle Royale genre of video games is based on. But as I was watching it, I realized all of these Battle Royale games are missing something that I feel like that movie has, which is these kids all know each other. So what if we had like a Persona style game where you have half of the game where you are getting to know people and you're building relationships and all of these things, and then in this latter half of the game you have to murder each other on an island.
That's interesting. All right.
It could actually be really based on the movie here.
Yeah. My first reaction is that I do like this kind of intermixing of the action and the social elements. This feels very Danganronpa.
Yes.
And I think the thing that Danganronpa gets really right about this balance is that, like, while narratively it makes sense to do like first half of the game is social, second half of the game is action, I think we're going to get more kind of like drama and tension and interesting narrative tangles by intermixing like one on, one off.
Oh, maybe the class starts as like, like 50 kids or something like that. And then you have to reduce it by 10 each time. They're like, okay, Fire Emblem style, end of the month, time to everyone battle to the death. And then you cull 10 kids and then you're back on math class on Monday.
Yeah, or, whatever kind of number it ends up working out to make the game kind of long enough.
Yeah. Well, if we're putting up Persona numbers, there's not a class large enough for us to sustain.
No, certainly. And actually, something a little bit shorter would give us some room to introduce a little bit of like narrative divergence as well, based on who's alive and who dies. Like we can really get in depth as far as, how the story develops. And just like any of these games, like you want to learn more about the characters. And so, there are certain characters who, just like in the movie Battle Royale, like they're given like a weapon at the beginning that they're just kind of randomly assigned.
If you answer your English quiz correctly during the week, it increases your chance of getting a better weapon at the Battle Royale.
Well, maybe kind of like the setup is the same like every time you play the game, and then it's in the action scenes that you have to either like hunt down characters that you don't want to see again in the future, or also remembering that everyone else is trying to take each other out. And so there's this kind of like sexy brutale types of like you have to foil somebody else's plans to murder somebody else, and there are some people who just come in with like really useless weapons, and you have to protect them.
If you could have social systems where like you kind of set up people being angry at each other going into the Battle Royale. But I love the idea of an excuse to have, people are replaying Mass Effect right now. Big thing about Mass Effect is who you're going to romance, right? Like, who's it going to be? Some people don't, some people don't play it like that. But if you're going to romance someone in Mass Effect, you put a lot of investment in that character and having conversations with them. I love the idea of building a romance storyline and then having that person try to kill you.
Yeah.
You're like, oh my God, I thought we were getting so close to this relationship, or even successfully having the relationship, and them, you have to kill them because they're coming after you.
Back to like the gameplay portion, because I think this is really pivotal for like how this develops. Like, I think the feeling that I got in the movie was that all of these children were understandably like really reticent to killing each other.
Right.
And that's the feeling that we're trying to build. And so we don't want it to feel like
For a couple of them, they felt like maybe that it was unleashing something that they already had there. Yeah.
But I don't want this to be like a game where you're like plopped down in like a third person shooter and it just feels great to get out there and fire your gun off. Right. It's like, make it a little bit more like survivally, like a Metal Gear Solid 5, like where like stealth and sneaking around is kind of like the modus operandi. And then as you encounter other players, because you're on this big island, you might not see anybody else during your entire time there. Then you can kind of like intervene on, the land is so big. I want to give the player at least some opportunity to intervene, like, because if everyone is trying to kill each other, you could go through the entire game theoretically and like never see any action.
Maybe we also craft it so that like there is a way, kind of a very specific path that ends successfully with like multiple kids making it or whatever. I started going into the realm of like throughout the movie you have these students like going into houses and cooking and doing all sorts of stuff. And so I'm wondering if we can take classes the rest of the month or week or whatever that build our survival skills.
Yeah.
When we go out. So, hey, tune into Home Ec because you're going to be able to craft some amazing things out of white rice.
And then just like in Persona, you're kind of balancing that against spending time with people and building your relationships and potentially forming alliances. Maybe when you encounter somebody on the field, their decision on what to do with you is kind of based on how strongly they feel towards you.
Your social affinity.
Yeah. If you come on in a threatening manner, they might, react more strongly.
Get that Paragon meter up with everybody.
Yeah. I was saying like you could, just based on like the size of the island, like you could go through the entire game without encountering any other players. And I think the biggest moments of drama are the characters, trying to kill each other.
Yeah.
And so being able to intervene there, if it can kind of work like the Red Dead Redemption 2 or the Grand Theft Auto systems where it's like there are a set number of like scripted encounters that will kind of like generally populate in like one of a few different places. So if you wander in there, then you have a chance of seeing this thing kind of, unfurl instead of it all just being like completely set in stone, and you probably will miss every single one of them. I like these like Monster Hunter World type of encounters of the characters, encountering each other, and maybe you intervene, maybe you drive one of them off, maybe you shoot somebody who's aiming at somebody else.
That happens too, right? Somebody will come in and like save somebody.
Right, yeah.
I like the idea too of like if it is going to be tight enough of something that people would play through, let's say, within 20 hours or less, maybe after the very first battle, that kind of establishes, because Battle Royale really does kind of establish a villain, doesn't it? They really establish the person right away, but it's like a brooding kid in the back of a class who looks visually very different from the rest of the...
He's the anime character. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, spiky hair and all. The idea of the first Battle Royale the first battle moment sets up who the villain is.
Oh, so like a nemesis system.
Yeah, it's like a nemesis. So like whoever makes it, maybe somebody who, I think what you want, right, to make sure that you don't cull down too much or whatever, is you want to be able to maybe have the characters be a little hardy. Mm-hmm. There are people who take a lot of gunshots in this movie and somehow still keep ticking. And I think it would be cool to whoever like comes after you and you kind of escape in a near death way after the first one becomes the nemesis for the rest of it. And like once that person has that encounter, you kind of mathematically behind the scenes say, okay, this person is going to string along to the end and become more and more of a problem.
Yeah.
Start taking out friends of yours. Start like hunting down and culling your group, trying to eliminate allies that you're building along the way.
And so these social sections, I think one of the most interesting things that the movie didn't explore, but like if there were times when people would have to come back together and would have to eat meals together again and the game was called off, there were no more murders during this time. It's against the rules.
We should, if it was a Nintendo game, there would be a character that would say that line of dialogue. Okay, children, there will be no more murders during this time.
I mean, this is like a straight kind of Monokuma Danganronpa. But anyways, like you have this time when like the kids maybe don't know who killed who, or maybe they do, and there's this kind of like awkward tension. People become ostracized because they had murdered somebody else, reasonably.
You hear things, you hear about what went on the battlefield. Maybe some kids like, I just barely made it. This person was chasing us with an axe, but I think I. And
then you have to sit across the dinner table from them and just be like, you tried to kill me.
Right. And if you can't make out the character, or maybe the person who is telling the story is like, I don't know who they are, but I know I like shot them in the shoulder. And so now you're like looking out for like a shoulder injury for your other. This is very dark, but the movie was it's very dark. It was very dark to work with. We've got the cooking mechanics. What else kind of, there's some first aid that you need to learn for sure.
Yeah.
What else do you need to survive on this island? It's not like the everybody parachutes in like the PUBG. It's very different. These kids are bust there.
Well, they kind of might as well be like, they're given time to individually kind of scatter at the beginning. So essentially they're in random places throughout the island.
Everyone's kind of deployed one by one. Here's your stuff, throw your stuff.
Maybe there's some sort of you can level up your navigational skills. So, they're each given like compasses and maps, but, as your character like levels up in their ability to read compasses and maps, then maybe their place will be marked on the map, some way to make it easier for the user as well.
That's about our time. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that one mechanic that I feel like is you could take from the movie that I'm surprised no battle royales have done is like sneaking up and stealing somebody's weapon. Like these people are really clinging to their weapons, and if you turn your back, you actually have to set it down, right? You don't have unlimited pockets in battle royale land. We got to come up with a name.
Look, there's been a lot of battle royale that's already kind of existed in the space, and I think we've made quite a few of those puns already ourselves.
The Royale Academy?
I think we've done that. That sounds really familiar.
We have to Google our own website to find out if we...
So there's like finals. Finals is also kind of a battle royale thing.
That could just be it.
Finals.
Actually
that suits it.
Finals coming this fall.
Finals. All right, that is our 2 pitches for the day, but we do have actually a contribution from listeners. So I think we've received 2 since the show ended, very shortly after the show ended, like a day or 2 after we did our final recording. I'm sure that they were trying in earnest to get in on time, but totally fine. Just didn't quite catch that cutoff. So we're going to read one of those now, and I'm sure we'll get to another special episode again in the future.
So this is from Tino Jakac,
Jakac?
Jakac.
Probably.
We'll
put our money on that.
Tino writes, just listen to your penultimate regular show where you said further pitches submitted today would probably not make it to the final show. That actually probably didn't come up on microphone. Lucky you. So that was a perfect timing to submit one. My idea is a mechanic where you create game assets from images that you think look like other stuff, i.e., while browsing the interweb, you see a picture of a house with some shrubbery out in the front that looks a bit like a tank when you squint, or you see a cloud that looks like a giant robot bear. Tina's got a great imagination here. I've just Googled, and the word is Pareidolia. I'll have to spell it. It's Pareidolia for this kind of thing. You could then manually crop the images to a bound of what you see with your mind's eye, and it would get processed via something like Deep Dream to produce a new interpretation of the image. Then an algorithm assigns the game stats to the object based on the number of eyes or dogs now present on the object. Maybe if it magically produces no eyes or dogs, the stats could be the best possible. I originally saw this as a team battle type thing where you use this mechanic to create your pocket monster gang and maybe augmented reality style, but hopefully it sounds fun. And Tino adds here, by the way, love you, Ryan. Oh, sweet. Thank you, Tino. Thank you for all the playwright, and I look forward to the future one-off specials, followed by a cash grab reunion in 10 years' time.
I think after 4 years, we should be able to grab cash at some point.
I know. We should get... How much money are we getting for this special?
We should have really worked something out beforehand.
Oh, no. We got to get in touch with the sponsors.
But anyways, let's start the clock again.
Yes.
Let's give ourselves 10 minutes. I really like this. I think I'm going to pivot a little bit at the very beginning here. So there's a piece of software that's been demoed around, and I'm sure you've seen it, but it's an app that can you can draw something in like a very simple MS Paint style format, and then it'll kind of interpret that into like a photorealistic. And so people can draw like a clumsy mountain and some white in the sky for clouds, and maybe draw a little stick figure house in front of it. And then the algorithm will interpret that somehow, some magically into, somewhat correctly scaled images that actually looks like a reasonably real approximation of what you've created. And so maybe there's challenges that you have to do in kind of a Jackbox style. I'm thinking of games like, what is the one in the most recent Jackbox Party Pack? The one where you draw...
There's Drawful, there's TKO.
Yeah, it's some sort of a fighters, anyways, like sketch fighters or something.
Oh, I haven't played it.
Anyways, it's a good one. But anyways, you're given a specific challenge, like something that you would want to find at a birthday party, or something that can knock down this wall. And then it's up to the two people to, on their individual devices, just draw something. And then the algorithm will interpret what they drew and then populate it with like the closest like stock image result. And so maybe somebody wanted to knock down the wall with a tank, and so they draw a tank, but then the algorithm was like, I don't know, that looks a little bit more like a frog to me. And now you have a frog, and the other player comes in with like a wrecking ball.
So you're trying to draw mean-looking things, or things that you think will resolve
potentially
into...
maybe it's a crying baby you have to calm down, so you draw like a bottle of milk, and then that ends up being like, you know, the Sears Tower or something like that, and you're like, no, that's not what I had intended. But let's see, of these two things, which one gets closer to what the computer wanted. Interesting.
And so in what Tino was saying, he's building like a pocket monster team of these cloud animals / so is it that like if I draw somehow something that ends up being a spider monkey, I get a spider monkey?
I think it would be kind of Jackbox style, like applicable only to that specific round. And so maybe if you had like a group of like 8 people, there are 2 people who are battling, each one draws their thing, the computer interprets it. Mm-hmm. You don't know what they were trying to draw, but the computer interprets it into 2 objects, 2 stock photos. Okay. And then everyone else has to vote which one is more likely to bring the wall down or soothe the baby or whatever.
I like that. Okay, so now I'm creating these creatures. Are we still using that technology, or are we using like I take a photo, if a cloud looks like a dog or something, that I get a dog? It doesn't matter, or is it?
Well, I think the point that was made in the email there was, in all of these kind of like Google AI image interpretation, like they always come with like these weird fractals of like eyeballs and dog faces and stuff like that. So I think that's what was like, that was the reference that was being made in there. But I don't know, we can take it in either direction, really.
I do like the idea of maybe doing a drawing of some sort, like a creature, but then having to source like a photo material for the creature. Like if you draw a frog and you go and take a picture, we were using an app this morning of like pictures of plants that somehow it's like, okay, well, this frog is going to be made of these flowers, and that'd be kind of Scarlet Nexus-y, I'm realizing. But I like the idea of like you can create a tank made of clouds. It somehow gets mapped into being like a big fluffy.
If this was a multiplayer game, and this could even be like a multiplayer remote game where people are maybe even like not at the same time, like this could be a game that would go on over kind of days and days, but like 2 players are assigned a challenge to come up with something that looks dangerous, and then they have to, with their phones, take a picture of something in their environment, which I think we have talked about, these kind of like photo scavenger hunts before, but then all the other players would like vote on which of the 2 seems the most dangerous. And so, it's based on wherever you are. Maybe when you are given the challenge, it sends you a push alert, and you have 5 minutes to submit your photo, but voting can take however long. Like that, there's no pressure on voting. Yeah. But I really like it to be that you have to find a picture wherever you are at the moment, and you can't take a 2-hour drive to go up to the Snoqualmie waterfall and find the perfect scenario.
So you have to use something around. So you could create like even right here, a rug creature, for example.
Yeah, you can see something in the clouds. You can make shadow puppets if you can also somehow hold your phone.
I imagine
to
like
take
a snake made of piano keys would look actually quite threatening. If we just some spiny little, it looked like almost like a skeleton or something.
Yeah.
So we're taking these creatures, we're battling them. When we battle them, like how do we determine the winner? He's talking about rolling stats based on what the thing generates, right?
Yeah. I mean, I was kind of talking about like individual challenges that would be more kind of like subjectively judged by the other people who are in the competition. But certainly could do like something that is more kind of like computer driven, something that turns whatever you take a picture of into like a little creature.
I feel like these tool sets that like Google's messing with, or that Tino talks about here, it's either the logical next step or it's the tool set that's really missing from tools like Dreams, where, all of these, I mean, I get it for content moderation reasons. You kind of want to control the set of things that someone has access to, but the there's a lot of people who are creators but can't necessarily model a character. But they're still a creative person. They can still come up with creative ideas. And so there's a ton of people, right, who are music makers that are really just remixers or samplers. I wonder, what you could do with taking take this thing, but make it out of this material, or see what happens when you apply physics XYZ to it.
You could use the technology from Spore, which is another one that we talked about all the time, where it kind of like, you throw on some legs and arms and eyes and stuff, and then the creature kind of figures out how it moves around, where it can interpret a picture. You take a picture of some object, and then the image is kind of like interpreted into something that figures out a way to move around based on something that's really like complicated, like your microphone stand would make for a really interesting creature because it's got a lot of like limbs and wires, and
it's basically a
camera could really have a lot of fun with.
Yeah. That actually goes back to something that a lot of people innately understand, which is, have you ever been to a place and somebody's just like slapped googly eyes on something?
Yeah.
I feel like if we give Tino the hey, take a photo, whatever it is, we'll make it just a TV. We've got a TV on a stand over here. So we do a TV or a monitor here, and we put giant googly eyes on it. But you can we give you things to attach. So you can attach googly eyes. It's almost like a Mr. Potato Head.
Yeah.
But maybe we also give you like steering wheels and stuff too. And so depending on if you attach like a steering wheel to it and some wheels, it becomes a vehicle. In that way, maybe you could put some googly eyes and maybe still the cannon or something as a nose or something, and then you get like a creature that can kind of shoot pellets out of its beak or something.
This is getting very complicated.
This is getting weird, but I love the idea of it being maybe more than, because the battling thing is so hard, right? How do you determine what is quote good? But what if this was more about having a ugly pet, like a Neopet, where you're like, This is my compressed air can monster, and I need to feed it 3 times a day and give it sunshine and all that sort of stuff.
It'd be fun with like a social element because it feels very personal. I mean, there would just be like hundreds of penis monsters on this website.
And you'd have to keep it alive. You'd have to care for it.
I guess. It calls into question the social elements. If this was a completely individual thing, then raise as many penises as you want, please.
Yes. Oh, this is it. Yeah, and then you raise it, and then it can have like a weird morphing child that's like somewhere between the thing that you made and a new thing.
Yeah, that could be interesting.
My wrist just buzzed. We're at time. Okay. What do we call it?
Oh, right. Can't be penis monsters. It
can't be. We have that word from Tino, which is the magic word.
That's right. The one that we can't pronounce.
We can't pronounce it. It is
Pareidolia.
Pareidolia.
The word of the day.
The word of the day.
Yeah, I think that suits. That's a fun name. One that'll be difficult to Google, but fun for people to say once they find it. Yeah, I think that just about wraps our show. We didn't really come prepared with a redacted game, which I think would be a little weird because
we can't redact.
Screen is right there, and so it would be a difficult proposition, but
rest assured there's more emails in the inbox, and we will be doing shows intermittently, and you'll find yours at some point, I imagine.
Yeah. We have I think we'll have some opportunities later this year to send some stuff out. We're also going to be getting this and hopefully some of the back catalog on YouTube just whenever we can find time for that, so there will be lots of ways to own and consume Playwright.
Well, hey, we did it. Special thank you. I guess I have to do the spiel, right? Special thank you to PROTODOME for the use of our theme song, Hello World, off the album Blue Noise. And when you're listening to things, go listen to the great shows on the Cane and Rinse Network, like The Sausage Factory, like Cane and Rinse.
And I guess if you would like to email us, it is a very risky proposition to this point.
Yeah, that's true.
But if you just want to say hi, or if you do have a future video game idea, who knows? Maybe we will.
The YouTube thing would be to say, drop a comment on this video.
Yeah, we certainly do that. Playwrightcast@gmail.com, playwrightcast.com/pitch. Playwrightcast.com is just like a great place to go for everything Playwright and for my video game music history remix project as well. So it's just a nice Nice little corner of the internet. And then at Playwright on Twitter. I think with that wraps our first live show played in front of no audience. We have a little Shovel Knight and Bob Ross.
There's a Bob Ross and a Shovel Knight. And they've been, actually, Bob, please sit down. It's very threatening.
All right. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.